Jesus experienced this kind of protection during his life on earth.
Then said the Jews unto him, Thou art not yet 50 years old, and hast thou seen Abraham? Jesus said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was, I am. Then took they up stones to cast at him. But Jesus hid himself, and went out of the temple, going through the midst of them, and so passed by. And all they in the synagogue, when they heard these things, were filled with wrath, and rose up, and thrust him out of the city, and led him unto the brow of the hill, whereon their city was built, that they might cast him down headlong. But he, passing through the midst of them, went his way.
God is well able to protect his people corporately as well as individually. He did this repeatedly for Israel. In the beginning of the book of Joshua, it is reported, all Israel returned from their many battles. The one exception was the battle against Ai because of Achan's sin of disobedience. The same corporate protection is reported in 2 Chronicles 20, verse 27, which says, They returned every man of Judah and Jerusalem, and Jehoshaphat in the forefront of them to go again to Jerusalem with joy, for the Lord had made them to rejoice over their enemies. It's hard to imagine an army in hand-to-hand combats able to win with no casualties. But God did protect Israel's army in this way, and was glorified in it. He wants to do the same now with his bride, but first she will have to come into covenant with him and follow after the things of the Spirit.
Another scene of a particular type of protection was this one dealing with present-day vehicle wrecks. In this scene I was going up a mountain, and I could hear wailing and sobbing coming from a house to my left. The head of the household had been killed in a semi-wreck. Then I saw the wreck, and it was mangled more than if it had collided with a train. It was hideous, obviously symbolic of the work of Satan. I knew it had happened because they had no protection. Several years ago, the van I was driving was rear-ended. I was hit full force by a person who had obviously not been looking at the road, as their brakes had not even been applied. I was knocked airborne into the field on my right. Having missed a high-line power pole by just 3 or 4 feet, I was fortunate to escape with my life. The impact was severe enough that it broke the back of my seat, which left me staring at the ceiling of the van. When I was able to comprehend what had happened, I began praising the Lord for sending his angels to protect me. But later in the week, I asked the Lord why this wreck even happened. He answered, "Read Job." I did, and realized Satan had been involved in the wreck. It wasn't something that just happened with an angel protecting me. And although Satan had a legal right to cause the accident because of my disobedience, God prevented him from taking my life, just as he had done for Job. Later, I disobeyed the Lord when he was dealing with me about getting a new computer. Financially, things had been going well, but then suddenly took a turn for the worse. Realizing the possible reason for this, I asked the Lord, "Did Satan accuse me and have the right to attack my finances because I disobeyed you when you told me to get the new computer?" He answered, "Now you have asked the right question." You have probably heard of many situations and near-death calamities similar to the two I have described, and you may have wondered why they happened. So when is the last time judgment came into your life because Satan accused you before God?
In another scene relating to God's protection, I was in prison with men I didn't know. Among these prisoners were some mafia-type inmates who wanted to kill me because I had done something good they didn't like. As I was walking through the wire fence courtyard wanting to hide, 2 men approached me and said, "Get under here." I got in under a frame of some sort, while other men squeezed in around me so I wouldn't be so conspicuous. Others positioned themselves in front of the frame. I could see the ones who were looking for me as they sifted through the men around me, but they were unable to find me. I had been protected by strangers who knew who the enemy was. This type of protection was revealed in the book of Acts. Then the Lord spoke to Paul in the night by a vision. Be not afraid, but speak, and do not hold your peace. For I am with you, and no man shall set on you to hurt you, for I have many people in this city.
Before we go on with more scenes concerning protections, let's review what the Holy Spirit has revealed so far. We have seen a foundational scene of the fact that there is a place we can walk, in God, where He will protect us from the enemy of mankind and all he is capable of doing. We saw a soldier wearing white linen who was protected, even though he had sin in his life. God revealed this through the symbolism of the French Foreign Legion soldier, a criminal, yet still clothed in white linen. When God lifted the hedge from Job, we saw a picture of what Satan can do. Job's property was either stolen or destroyed. His children and servants were killed, and he was attacked in his physical body. Then Roy began sharing specific scenes of protections the Holy Spirit has shown him. The first one was a protection scene in Jesus' life. No one could lay a hand on him. We saw this same picture in the Old Testament, when Israel obeyed God in war. Her armies did not lose a man in combat, except for when Israel was disobedient. This glorified the God of Israel. God revealed this same physical protection is available to us if we will walk in covenant with God and follow after the things of the Spirit. After that, we saw another specific scene where the Holy Spirit revealed that wrecks are not the Lord's will and can be avoided when we are walking in obedience to His covenant. This scene also reveals that one specific strategy of Satan is to destroy heads of households. We also saw through Roy's personal testimony regarding his van that Satan is able to enter into our lives because of disobedience when the Lord gives us directions. And finally, a scene that revealed God will use His people to protect us in this day, just like He did in the Bible for Paul the Apostle. Now that we've reviewed what God has shown us so far, let's move on to some more specific scenes God has revealed concerning His protections.
This next scene is necessary to keep us from taking God's revelations to an extreme and making them say something they don't say. God's protections cover those things that are destructive and life-threatening, but not the everyday bumps and scratches. We can't fall into thinking that God is going to protect us or our children from every possible scrape just because we are walking in covenant with Him. The scene is of a young woman standing at her back door watching her son playing on equipment in the backyard. She is disgusted because she has to watch the little boy to make sure he doesn't hurt himself on the equipment. She feels that her tithing correctly should protect her son from getting hurt, so she wouldn't have to watch him. The Bible is pretty clear about us being responsible and not getting into foolish living. I've heard people say, "Oh, we'll be all right. God will protect us. We're in covenant." This kind of thinking can work into tempting God. Jesus dealt with this in the wilderness. Matthew 4:5-7. The devil then took him up into the holy city, and set him on a pinnacle of the temple, and said unto him, If you are the Son of God, cast yourself down. For it is written, He shall give His angels charge concerning you, and in their hands they shall bear you up, lest at any time you dash your foot against a stone. Jesus said unto him, It is written again, You shall not tempt the Lord thy God. In this next scene describing a particular protection, I was walking towards a man sitting in a chair. He was leaning forward on his elbows, waiting for me to speak. He was a man I know personally who believes he knows how to tithe. In the scene I was slow to speak, but I finally said, Tithing correctly, or seeing that your tithe gets to the correct places, will protect you from cancer. This upset the man sitting in the chair, but I kept talking to him anyway. The scene ended reminding me of others I've experienced who were also offended when I suggested they had not been tithing correctly. I understand this because I thought I was tithing right at least 3 separate times in my life, only to have the Lord reveal something about tithing I had not understood. In another scene the Lord gave me, I was talking to several preachers about being protected if the tithe was delivered correctly. Suddenly one of them who was wearing a brown suit got up to leave. He said, "I believe God can do anything." I knew he meant through faith. I told him that I believe that too, but God is also a legal God. The scene ended.